Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Line Change, the NHL betting podcast from the Action Network. My name is Michael Leboff, and joining me, as always, is my co-host Nick Martin. And Nick, we are recording this right before the 16-game Frozen Frenzy on Tuesday night, which leaves us one game to talk about on Wednesday night. And the two teams are playing Tuesday night, and then traveling to Washington D.C. to play again on Wednesday night. So it does complicate things from a handicapping perspective, but we will do our best. But we'll also use the opportunity to um, discuss any future bets, take a big picture look at the league, and then get out of here and get ready for another busy slate on Thursday. But let's start with that Flyers Caps game. This one in Washington, with the Caps at minus 150, the Flyers plus 125. Total is at 5.5, heading towards 6. Um, the odds for the first leg of this back-to-back in Philly, minus 125 plus 105 in favor of the Flyers, and a 5.5 total with juice on the over. So like just in terms of a like adjustment for home ice and a goaltending advantage for the Capitals, I think the line looks um okay. Not too interesting from a betting perspective. Are there any other ways we can think about going after this one? The Flyers are making some lineup changes for night one, and I do have a sneaky suspicion that Torts will use this opportunity a back to back to give Matvei Michkov his first healthy scratch of the season. But um, anything else we should be looking out for here?
Yeah, that could be something to look out for, but I also think they still kind of want to compete, and having him in the lineup clearly makes them a better team. So we'll see which way he wants to go with that. And I agree, like the Caps, this is one of the reasons I think the Caps have a lot of upside in regular season betting markets this season, which is one of the futures that I want to go into. And I do think there's some good futures, which is great because we can call it a spade here. Like this slate is as bad as it gets when we have a one game slate and the teams are both playing tonight after we record. That makes things pretty tough. When I looked at the betting prices here, it felt like enough of an adjustment for me that I didn't want to touch the Caps, given that I think their home ice advantage is pretty marginalized when you consider both teams are traveling on the same schedule. So I didn't have a lot there, but the first future that I'll touch on, because we gave it out preseason, and some of the other Jack Adams prices have really moved, but Tarigny is still out there. Or Trigny, his name's just always on my mind. But Spencer Carberry is still out there at 20-1 to win the Jack Adams, and like he's the one out of the ones we liked entering the year that hasn't moved. And yeah, the Caps have only played 5 games, but uh, with what they've shown so far, like this looked like a boomer bust team, and they've looked really good. Like everything you could ask for to work out has been great. Pierre-Luc Dubois is playing great. Tom Wilson's bounced back. Mangiapane and Verona make the third line look a lot more potent than it has been. And I think the two goaltending tandem, like I kind of keep outlining, gives them a huge leg up over teams like, obviously Philly's got one of the worst goaltending tandems, but over a lot of teams, it's going to help them collect points. So I think there's a decent chance that the Caps do. I don't know if we'll see them be this good, but I think they can easily sneak into the playoffs. And it feels like people really are respecting Carberry as one of the reasons why. So I think that number, I'm surprised it hasn't moved a little, because the Caps look like, everything they've shown looks like they could kind of play to their higher ceiling more than being the team that might fall apart. So I thought that was the first future I wanted to outline here, because I think it's definitely still worth locking in at the exact number we gave it out at this summer.
um, yeah, I actually think that looks that's a good shout. The one note I will make is in terms of like the actual game, I do want to bet Pierre-Luc Dubois to score because, like you say, he's playing well. He's just not getting enough shots. Um,
He's
but
getting
the
tough
everything,
usage too, like
yeah,
him
exactly.
and I mean Wilson scoring, but like that's part of the reason I think that line probably deserves more credit than they're even getting. Is like the Caps have played good teams, really good
Yes.
teams, and that line is the line that's matching up versus like Rope Hintz versus Jack Eichel, and they're not doing badly. They're doing all right. Like if the Caps can get that out of that line versus the other team stars this year, it's going to be a massive upgrade compared to last season.
Yeah, and they've only had one. Matt Roy has only played in one game so far too, so they're you know arguably second best defenseman, um, depending on how he settles in with his new team. Hasn't really made much of an impact, but when he comes into the lineup with like Chikrin, Carlson, Sandin, Roy, I mean even Faravari and TVR, he's just a good group. Um,
It
so the
is. He
ceiling
was
is
supposed
there
to be
for
the
him.
reliable one, and
Right,
he's
yeah.
gone already. But he looked like the one off-season signing that you could kind of pencil in for being good, and the other ones I was like, we'll see how this goes.
Um, yeah, so the Carberry one's a good one. The only other Jack Adams number that's still floating out there that I think is um, kind of interesting, and I don't know how much longer it'll stay where it is Scott Arniel. It's tough for me to like see updated odds in New York, just because of the betting rules, but I can see one book has him at 25-1. I think that's actually an interesting number as well. Given how the Jets have looked, I think he'll get plenty of credit if they somehow find a way to win the Central Division in a year where everyone was expecting them to take a step back. So he's another one to keep in mind. Uh, in terms of other award markets, let's go to the Calder next. Right now, Michkov is the favorite at plus 180, ahead of Logan Stankoven, who currently paces rookies in scoring. Then it's Lane Hudson at 5-1. Cutter Gauthier has had a bumpy start. He was benched the other night as well. He's at 8-1. Then it's Macklin Celebrini, who's hurt at plus 850. Will Smith 12. Dustin Wolf at 16. It's Seamus Casey, who set the world on fire and then got sent down as 28-1. I think you should at least be monitoring the Celebrini number. I would put it that way. Like if it keeps drifting like towards like 12-1 as he misses more time and maybe Michkov puts up more numbers and Stankoven continues playing as he does, then it's time to buy in, I think, on Celebrini. He's just played 2 games. Who's to say that he doesn't get hurt again? Or I know they'll be careful with him, but if he does come back and give himself enough runway, I do think that he's got every chance to put some heat on. And now you're getting him at a little bit more than double the price, and it could end up being triple the price, depending on how these odds fluctuate. Anything on the Calder?
No, I don't. I feel pretty good about my handicap on this one. I wrote up Stankoven and Michkov in the summer, so right now feeling good, and I think it's looking like I thought. I didn't think there was anyone down the board that looked likely to like steal significant usage. The one sprinkle I tried to go on was a disaster with Lecker Mackey at 100-1, but I feel like Stankoven and Michkov look like they're separating themselves. Lane Hudson, obviously, I think his numbers deserve to shorten, but looks accurate right now. And like you said, I think the Celebrini angle is good because it's not like Michkov and Stankoven have blown the doors off this thing. I just think it's more so the reason that it's fair they've shortened this much is like no one's pushing. Like Will Smith too, he's looked a little disappointing. And then I think the other one, I mean, I thought Dustin Wolf was a pure fade, so I guess that part of this handicap's been kind of bad because he's clearly probably right now the best number way down the board. But I don't know if that'd be worth adding. I think that might be a bit of an overreaction there. So yeah, I didn't have a lot on the Calder.
Um, the Hart Trophy is it's funny how this is kind of shaken out to start, right? Connor McDavid sluggish by his standard start. Austin Matthews sluggish by his standard start. Jack Hughes sluggish by his standard start. David Pastrnak, same thing. Um, and then you have players like Nikita Kucherov, who's lighting it up. Artemi Panarin's lighting it up. Kirill Kaprizov's playing really well. A couple defensemen. Cale Makar is putting up points at a ridiculous pace for defensemen. But I also think there's the goalies, if this paces out this way, and it's still so early, but all of a sudden, I do wonder if the Jets continue to play this way and they do something crazy like win a President's Trophy or win the division, maybe finish with the best record in the Western Conference. Hellebuck will get a lot of credit, and He's 150 to 1 right now. So his number's actually gone up. I think he's one guy I'd be a little bit interested in adding if you were looking to bet someone in the Hart market right now. But other than that, like it feels like this one you just got to let settle more at the top.
Yeah, the only number that stuck out to me as I dug into this, and I'm kind of still trying to fully debate, like if I would play it, but because this is a new market, they posted Hart Trophy finalist odds on FanDuel, and we've talked about how like I've had so many runner-up long shots in recent years where if they had given like this like the longer number to be a nominee, I would have happily done it. The one that I'm kind of looking at right now, and I'm like trying to really think about what the price should be. Kucherov's plus 140 to be a nominee, to finish top three, so make the ballot. I That looks like a pretty good number to me. Like he's had such a good start. He's been so consistent. He was right there last year. I'm just maybe it's trying not to overreact. It is a pretty small sample, but I think that price is worth watching, especially maybe if it stays the same for a couple more strong Kucherov games, because I feel like getting past, like to me, it seems like it should almost be more about even money because you're obviously going to have pushes from McDavid, McKinnon, and Matthews. Panarin's had a good enough start that he's going to be in the mix. But I feel like given that what we've seen from Kucherov every single season and like the start he's had, that number looks definitely interesting to me. I think that'll be one to keep your eye on as this week goes on.
The the Norris Trophy. I mean, like I said, Cale Makar is off to a great start. The one game where he really struggled was came against the Islanders. We thank him for that. He's putting up plenty of points and has shortened to a plus 135 favorite. I don't really have much else to add to the Norris. I think you could. It's still early enough that you can make. You could start like you could circle someone like Dougie Hamilton, for example. I think it's 60 to 1, and you can convince yourself to bet that number, for sure. But Jake Sanderson at 100 to 1 as well. Like those are the two guys who I think you can like build a case 2 weeks into the season, and be like, these numbers are long enough to be interesting. But I do feel like at this point it looks like it might be a fool's errand to bet into this one.
Yeah, Sanderson's been really good, but I agree. I think right now, and like typically, you're gonna have a couple games to try to like catch those and like take your, you know what I mean? Like you're gonna need to see Dougie have some productive nights. Like he only has like 2 points in 8 games, which seems pretty insane. I thought their power plays looked pretty good so far this season. I actually looked at that stat today on Hamilton and was really shocked because when I've watched the Devils, I feel like he's looked true to form. The power plays looked really good. So I do like that long shot. I was high on Hamilton this season, but I also feel like you said, you can probably kind of feel that one out.
Um, yeah, Vezina though, I still think this market remains pretty interesting. We talked up Darcy Kemper and Sam Montembeau in the preseason. They both came out of the gates with their hair on fire. Were terrific. The problem is a few of the favorites have as well, and also Jeremy Swayman signed a contract with Igor Shesterkin and Connor Hellebuck have been awesome. Jake Ottinger has been really good. The Anthony Stolars has been awesome in Toronto. His numbers shortened from triple digits to 40 to 1. There is one player that I do think is maybe floating a little under the radar just because of what happened last year, and that's Sorokin on the Islanders at 14 to 1. His numbers drifted a little bit, and he's just looked really good in his first two starts after offseason back surgery and a year last year where he was just completely out of gas towards the end and tanked his numbers. Um, the Islanders are playing the Red Wings tonight, Tuesday night, and I think another strong start from him. Maybe we start to see people perk up about him being back into form. It still would only be 3 games, but he's certainly someone who I just would think you should monitor the number because he will fly under the radar a bit compared to Shesterkin, Hellebuck, and Ottinger, given the narratives around them coming in.
Yeah, I mean, my preseason, I was with you on Kemper, but my preseason pick was saying that I thought Shesterkin, given that he is the best goaltender in the world, deserved to be a shorter number. And I still think at plus 500, great bet. Like, if I had to, I would honestly think the play would maybe be just going between Hellebuck and Shesterkin. This is looking like one of these ones to me. I think like the chances that someone comes from down the board are getting a little overrated. And the thing is that the thing that I really like about this, there's a couple things working in Shesterkin's favor. First off, he's already plus 5.3 goals saved above expected with a 934 save percentage. But in the early going, the Rangers look more competent defensively. And he has consistently played behind a Rangers team that is not good at even strength defensively. And I think the fact that they actually look like they're going to take steps forward, like voters aren't very inclined to take that into consideration, right? Like we've seen how these NHL things go. If you end up with a good save percentage, the good counting stats on a winning team, these guys aren't digging into goals saved above expected. They're not looking at stuff like that. So I just think if Shesterkin is going to benefit from improved defensive play from the Rangers, his case is going to be so strong. Jake Ettinger's had a really good start too. I should throw that out there, but I'm just not as high on him in terms of his actual level compared to Shesterkin. So I'm a little afraid of Hellebuck for sure, but I feel pretty good with the Shesterkin call. I think it just continues to look like a number on like a guy that I'm just, it feels crazy to think that you're getting 5-1 on him winning an award for being the top goaltender in the league when he's on a really good team. So yeah, I feel good about that one.
Team wise, I mean, unless you want to get into Art Ross or anything, I don't really have much there, unless you do. But
Yeah, I do have one that I thought still held value as of yesterday. I thought it looked like a pretty good buying window. The Leafs are at plus 230 some places, plus 220 now to win the division. I think that's worth a bet. And I dug into, I won't bore by going game by game, but I dug into the schedules of the Panthers, the Bruins, and the Lightning that are upcoming. And the Leafs have a fairly soft schedule. And all in all, I felt pretty good about the chances that the number could swing in the Leafs' favor over the next 2 weeks. Like I feel pretty good that they can go on like a whatever, like a 5-on-1 run, and that maybe we'll see the Panthers, Lightning, and Bruins drop a couple games here. The Leafs do play the Bruins on Saturday, which will be a big game for that bet. But I feel pretty good about what's been going on with the Leafs. Like obviously, it's easy to say that they're getting elite goaltending from Stolarz, which was the greatest question mark. But I like the upside of that roster relative to the rest of the division. I wouldn't be picking them to beat the Panthers come playoff time, but I think that this regular season, their depth could be an advantage, and maybe we'll see the Panthers sputter out a little bit. Not that high on the Lightning, and I'm lower on the Bruins, so I just feel pretty good about the chances that Toronto finds a way to finally get that advantage and avoid the nightmare 2 versus 3 matchup in the Atlantic that has killed them so many seasons. So yeah, I think that's a pretty good price to take on the Leafs right now.
um, yeah, and I think that the narrative coming into the season was a little misconstrued, where everyone's saying like, oh, the Panthers, Leafs, Bruins, and Lightning are clearly the four best teams in the division again coming into the year. But that doesn't mean that like as a cohort they're better overall like than they were last year. Because I would say um, the Bruins, Panthers slightly worse. Who knows? What the Bruins are showing some serious cracks they've got to sort out. The Lightning, I think what we've seen out of them to start is a pretty good representation of what they are. Like some nights they will be world beaters, and then they can go on a quiet 3-game, 4-game winning streak and be like, up, they're back, and then just get outworked and lose the depth battle, and it could look ugly. Um,
For
so
sure.
yeah, I don't mind that. I really have. I'm having a hard time trying to sort out, and it's of course it's the metro. It's early, but I'm having a hard time sorting out the metro a little bit because I do think we've seen the Rangers have been consistently good. The Devils have, I think, been as good as you can ask for. Um, the Capitals have shown something and maybe are the most interesting team in that market right now. But as you said, like Spencer Carberry's 20-1. So if you think that there's any value in them to win the division, you should just bet the Carberry number. But yeah, the other teams like the Hurricanes, the Islanders, the Penguins, I think we still have a lot to figure out with those groups. And I could say the same thing in the Central. Nobody has any idea what's going to end up happening with the Avalanche. Don't expect the Jets to keep this up going forever. Wild shot out of a cannon. Predators the exact opposite, and then the Utah Hockey Club is sitting at 13-1. I don't think that they could win the division, but it does feel like that number is a little underrating them. Like I don't think that it's like an awful bet, but yeah, that's just trying to sum up where I'm at right now on the league as a whole as best I can. Congratulations to anyone who's out there holding a Calgary Flames to win the Pacific ticket because it looks great right now.
Yeah, it's been 5 games, so it is. This is one thing I was pointing out recently, actually, and even in one of my Flames Nation articles, I noted is if you dive into the standings 3 weeks into the year every season,
Yeah,
it is more of a scrambled mess than you kind of
the
will
Ducks.
realize. I think the Ducks last year were like
Yeah, the
8-10
Ducks.
one. That's the one
Yeah,
I keep
exactly.
like
The Ducks were
looking
the
at. And I'm
perfect
like,
example of that. The Red
yeah,
Wings were 7-1-1 to start. It's but
and we
and
did like point it out a lot, but like it's hard to guess which of these teams are going to come out looking organized, in good form, like managing the puck well and all those things. And there are always a few teams that crack that list that don't end up playing
yeah,
that way the rest of the year. So who knows if
absolutely.
that'll be the Flames or
Yeah.
not. I feel like what they're going to end up doing is tailing off enough that they're in like the wild card mix, which is a huge overachievement for them and will entirely prove me wrong. But I still can't imagine them being near the top of the division. So I'll double
Cool.
down and be willing to eat some even more crow if they do.
All right. Yeah. I mean, that's about all we can get out of an evening where there's just one game and those two teams are playing the night before as well. So I think we did our best here, but things will be a lot more riveting for our preview for Thursday, October the 24th. So check back then. Until then, hopefully everyone enjoys the Tuesday night, takes a deep breath on Wednesday, and is ready to go after it again on Thursday.